The following is a Productions original series.
Hello and welcome to Walk and Roll Live. I'm Doug Vincent along with Addie Rich. Our podcast is dedicated to amplifying the voices of the disability community. I am a polio survivor, now wheelchair user, and Addie
has cerebral palsy, and now I'm a wheelchair user too. When I go out and about, I should say. I'm not
laughing at that that revelation, but just the way you said it.
He's laughing at the look on my face and trying to decide what I'm gonna say.
Oh, goodness sakes. Well, welcome to another week of Walk and Roll Live. Got a wonderful guest this week, like we did last week. Thank you to Gemma Davies for sharing her story with us and highlighting FND, which functional neurological disorder, right? You get that right? You know, it's looking. I think I said this maybe in the interview, but when we booked her on, I didn't know it was something that was, and she said that it was rare and all that. But then all of a sudden it started popping up on my social media. You know, people, doing clips with it. And there's some. Yeah,
well, once you say a word out loud, then Meta says, oh, hi, you want to talk about that? Okay, let me show you everything I ever thought about that.
Yes, absolutely, and more. So thank you, Gemma. And we'll continue to keep in touch with her. We've got her resources on the website, so check those out. And how was your week?
My week was fine. My week was productive. I'm still getting used to like a little bit of work differences that keep me busier. It's like once they hand you the title and some money that goes with it, then they're like, cool, now we can scoop the rest of it on your plate because we had to be nice because we weren't paying you for it yet.
That's right.
But I like feeling productive.
I know you do. And you did something fun, though. Share that.
Oh, I did something super fun. It was really cool. I don't know if people, because they do travel the U.S., but the Savannah Bananas, which are like basically the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. I went to the Savannah Bananas game yesterday. So it was really cool. It was actually at Truist Park, which is where the Atlanta Braves play. They played basically a homestand, which means they played a game Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh, good.
It was quite fun. It was a ton of people and it was quite hot, but it was fun. They do, they do a lot of crowd work. They do a lot of like funny little gimmicks. They don't just, the people that play, like they're really playing baseball, but when they catch the ball, they might catch it in their hat or they'll relay it in instead of just throwing to second or whatever. I mean, it's a show. It's fun.
Isn't there's somebody on stilts?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my. Yes. There's this one. It's the world. They say it's the world's tallest batter, and that person, like whoever that person is agile in a way none of us are agile because they literally did hit it, then ran all the way to first. Obviously, they were out before they got to the bag, but to run on stilts like their life depended on it was pretty amazing.
The world's largest strike zone, that's for sure.
Sure.
Speaking of things, the meta, just listening to things. And I went to Vegas last weekend and got together with my siblings and kind of a little mini reunion. And we had a good time, hang out by the pool and ate a lot. Of course, but my brother gambled. I didn't gamble much or at all. But one of the things that we had another friend that happened to be there in town visiting her friend. And so we got together with her for just a couple of hours. She was, getting ready. She was packed up, ready to go to the airport, go home.
Yeah.
But she was talking about the whole situation with this Savannah Bananas. And I didn't realize, that's why I said to you, when you said you got tickets, I said, oh, were you in the lottery? And you said, yes. So you have to go into a lottery to even get a chance to buy tickets. That's how hot they are, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I literally was sitting there thinking, like, here are these kids that probably were like, because, and they, like you say, they really play and they're good. So, these are probably kids that, didn't make the majors, but probably would have done very well in like the minor leagues or different things. They're playing and they play like they want to win. But yes, months ago, there was a lottery to be. Amanda and my nephew had gone when they went to Colorado. My sister was like, there's this really fun thing. If it ever comes toward Atlanta, you should do it. So I put my name in the lottery and submitted everything. And then back in October, they said, you've won the right to like buy some tickets. You can buy, I think I could buy like up to 4 or something as a private individual. And I bought 2 because at the time I was like, well, I definitely don't want to go by myself, but I have no idea who's going.
Yeah.
So I did it, you know.
Awesome.
And it was,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, do they, because they're out of South Carolina? Where are they? Like
Savannah's out of Georgia.
Georgia.
So it actually started in like coastal Georgia, but they play against rival teams, but it's obvious that they all work for the same production company, because it truly is a production. They have like an MC.
But they don't keep a regular schedule there in Savannah, right? Where they play. Yeah,
they do not.
So
now they
moved
travel.
on from
there is no home stadium for them. It's booked dates.
Very nice.
And like I say, they played the party animals, but clearly like the party animals are also part of that whole system.
Fun. Yeah, get your tickets and go check it out. That's all I got.
Well, what did you do? You didn't.
Well,
you didn't got anything yet.
I know. Well, Vegas. Went and saw the family.
Vegas.
And,
yes.
Yeah. I was trying to think the rest of the week. Nothing. Nothing outside the usual.
I was like, on the regular, you're a busy man anyway, being on boards and hanging with your friends. So you're normally the one with the stories.
I know. But I was gone Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday I had some appointments. I get my ears waxed every 6 weeks.
Yeah, I know, and you don't always like that wax girl either.
Well, no, there's only one. Yeah, when she spills the wax all over your shirt, it's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't hate her or dislike her. I just don't like some of the things she does to my shirts.
Yeah.
So I found a good one. But then I had a dermatology. And they took a couple of biopsies, which, they've taken a few. I pretty much figure they're going to be benign, but nice to know, so.
Yeah.
That. Other than that, just kind of the usual stuff. The Veterans Village Pantry did that. And we did Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day to all the moms. And the ones that act like moms, we love you. And, we gave them little bags. With,
fun.
Like a purse. I mean, a nice purse with, they were like black there was a red other, what do you call it, clutch or something like that inside
fun.
of it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Very, very nice. So, yeah. Good week. All right. Today we have Arthur Martinot. He's another one of these folks that I accosted at an event and invite him on the show, and they're gracious enough to join us. So we'll have our talk with him. Another unique story, and I like the what he's doing today. He's a free spirit, would you say? Yeah. So we'll meet him and learn all about him right after this word from Ugyar Professional Training.
At Ugyar Professional Training, we know that your greatest asset is your team. Investing in their development, knowledge, and happiness is essential for your business's success and growth. To achieve new heights, it's important to hire intelligent, talented individuals and empower them to excel in their areas of strength and passion. Ugyar is committed to transforming your employees into happier, more productive, and fulfilled individuals. When your team thrives, your business prospers. Wise leaders understand that providing team members with opportunities to shine in their strengths unlocks untapped potential. Elevate your team with Ugyar Professional Training and witness the growth of your business.
From the Ugyar Professional Training Studios, you're listening to Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories.
People look at me sometimes like they're staring through a frame, trying to find the fragile parts before they learn my name. Some say you're so brave, some say I could never, like this life I'm living in ain't just life altogether. But I'm thinking about the rent this month, whether dad's still doing fine. Trying to hold my family close and steal a little piece of mine. I know they mean well, but they don't understand. I'm not searching for saving, I'm just making my plans. Don't look at me like I'm broken, and don't look at me like a cause. I'm chasing love and paying bills and getting through these hours. I've got dreams that keep me up at night, same fears running through. Underneath a different story, I'm not that different from you. We all want somebody to hold us, we all want a little more time. We're all just trying to find our way under the same sky.
Well, thank you for joining us on Walk and Roll Live. Doug here, Addie is here as well, and our guest for this week, Arthur Martinot, and we're going to let him do a brief introduction, and then we're going to take over. So go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. My name is Arthur. I'm a C6, C7 quadriplegic. I was injured about 4 years ago, and I live in Pomona, just outside of Los Angeles.
Very good. One of those fortunate things when you live in Southern California and you get injured, Casa Colina is there, Triumph Foundation is here. You know, it's all these things that are just so wonderful for our community. So I figure we'd like to start at the beginning, and we're going to start with your growing up in Canada and France. Tell us how that shaped Arthur.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal is an interesting place. It's francophone. There's a lot of French speakers there. We went to specifically a French school, so a lot of people who'd moved from France went to that school. So I grew up, speaking French, not French Canadian. There's a distinction.
Right.
Nothing wrong with French Canadian. It was a fun culture to kind of intermix into. But yeah, it was freezing cold up there, and I learned to enjoy the cold. I loved snowstorms and playing outside, and I always developed a love for the outdoors, and we'd travel, all over. And we used to go to Florida. We would drive down in the car and just, go to Florida, and I learned to really appreciate the ocean and warm weather.
Okay, I have to make a joke about that because I lived in Toronto for 5 years. I was married to a Canadian. And I feel like it's like if you live in Canada, you all get a Florida pass with your Canadian life. Because, I mean, I feel like so many people, that's the only place they go for vacation. It's a straight shot going straight down. But like so many people are like, yeah, we're going to Florida. I'm like, not surprising.
And I imagine they do that in the winter time, right?
They do, absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of people get timeshares.
Snowbirds.
Yeah.
It's super popular. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I have to entertain.
Can't blame them. Can't blame the Canadians.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, there's other places y'all could go. I don't. Okay, Florida. I don't know what just makes it just go straight to Florida. That's good. I don't know. I
have great memories of my childhood and spending it over there, St. Augustine and Daytona and all.
On the beach.
I mean, I do love it. Yeah, I do love it now because my friends that I made while I was up there, they go to Florida. I'll meet them because I'm in Georgia. It's much closer than going back up there. So I kind of like the expressway that exists between the two places. I just find it funny.
Yeah.
So Canada and some trips to Florida. Then how did France come in?
So France, we decided, I guess my parents wanted to go back to France and see how it was. I think they were over the cold and they were like, okay, well, France, let's just try the south of France. It's a lot more temperate. And I think they just had a hankering to return to their roots.
So is that where they were from?
Yeah, they're both
Originally?
French. My dad was born and raised in Paris. My mom is from Lille and Dunkerque. She's from the north, and yeah, they met in Paris. And my mom was an actress. My dad was a photographer. He's been a photographer. He's retired now. They actually both still live in Florida. They're retired in Florida.
Fun.
So you get to go back.
Yeah. It's not quite as fun as it used to be when I was a kid. I mean, California is kind of like where it's at for me, but
Yeah.
it's still nice to go back.
So how did you feel about going to France?
I don't know if I enjoyed it as much. I think I was pretty Americanized by that point.
How old were
I
you?
mean, I was 10 years old when we moved back, and yeah, it just the schooling was different. Canadians are super chill, relaxed, really very cool. The whole mentality is just very easygoing, and France is a little bit more high strung. I got in a lot of fights at school, so it's kind of good. I learned to fight, but it just wasn't really my bag. My older brother, is much more academic, a little bit more. He was more into schooling, and academically speaking, it's a much better place. At least it was for him. So he kind of was flourishing there, and he really enjoyed the city life. We were in Toulouse, and it for me, when we moved back to America, we moved to Florida in 1993. I think that's where I really hit my stride. I felt at home,
Yeah. And so how old were you then?
Yeah.
So you go
I was
to France at 10.
13.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a 3-year stint.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
quick. Yeah, and my parents were also happy to be in a warmer climate, like really warm climate, and reunite with my sister who was living there. And she's 16 years older than me, my half sister, and she had married an American, and it was good to reconnect with her. She just had her first kid,
Hmm.
and for my parents to be grandparents was a cool thing. So
Uncle Arthur.
yeah, it was cool. Yeah, and I think the schooling was more my speed. It was a little bit easier.
Yeah, right. Not as
And yeah. I mean,
So at this point, had your athleticism already, come to the forefront? Were you playing basketball and different things like that?
I tried out for the soccer team my sophomore year, and I just didn't do well. I wasn't really good at skilled sports, but my brother joined the rowing team, and my parents forced me. They're like, just try it out. I'm like, all right, it looks lame, but I'll try it. And I fell in love with it. I was immediately just like, oh, this is kind of awesome.
And was that high
like,
school?
damn, yeah.
Yeah, this was high school.
Yeah, they didn't have rowing at my high school.
No.
No.
And
we were fairly close to the ocean, but I don't know. Do you do it in the ocean, or is it more of a?
Do not do it in the ocean.
No, probably not.
Sounds like the ocean.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay.
Actually, I have recently seen that. I saw a video on social media. They do have ocean rowing on these specially adapted boats, and you will go up the face of waves, and you get the coach or the coxswain just screaming at people to get past the crest. It looks pretty intense.
Yeah,
but no, this
rowing.
is classical rowing, Ivy League type of stuff. But we practice on lakes in Florida. A lot of places practice on rivers. Big Northeast sport.
And you did pretty well at it.
I did, yeah. My first year, my brother and I were in the same boat, the lightweight 4, and we won a national scholastic title.
I know. I never heard anybody use that not being a metaphor of some kind.
I know, right?
Yeah.
My brother and I were in the same boat.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy about it. But,
Yeah, he was probably like, "Oh, my kid brother."
Yeah, he did not like me very much. He'd found rowing. He's like, "Cool, I got my own thing." And then, here I come along and join in with him. And now I'm on his back. He's got to take me to practice. He just wasn't too happy about it. But we did well. We did really well. And the other 2 in the boat were also a pair of brothers.
Oh, well,
that was kind of cool. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun.
How do you feel playing in a sport like that, the discipline and things of that sport, did it help your academics? Did it I just see it as so disciplined and like something that you got to pay attention. And if you were kind of a kid that was like, oh, who cares? I don't know. Were you just paying attention in school enough to do your rowing? Because I used to be a teacher.
Yes.
So I will say it like
Okay.
that. Because
Yeah.
I had boys that the only reason they were aiming for a C was so they could play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was for me. Yeah, I was not academically motivated at that time. I became much more interested in academia later on in life. I just wasn't ready for it. I didn't find any subjects that, I mean, I love art, and and none of my art teachers really encouraged me or were encouraging to the subject itself. Like my art teachers were like straight up like, I don't know if not much you can do with art. We love it, they're kind of artsy craftsy, but you know,
They're like, I'm a teacher. You see, this is what I did.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I don't know if there's a future in art then, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I realized that later in life, especially when I moved to Los Angeles, which is a big art city. There are so many things you could do with art, and there's so many different kinds of art. Something I wish I had known in high school, but I kind of, I was interested in it, and I just kind of moved away from it because I didn't see an avenue. But as far as like relating to sports, yeah, I was just motivated by rowing. I loved it, and it seemed to be enough to fulfill me at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But it got me a scholarship, so it got me into college.
There we're going. That was our next stop. Is that you did so well? You got a full scholarship.
I did.
You did something else with it. What did you do?
Oh, with my scholarship? No, I dropped out of college.
Wow, you won a national championship.
We won a national. Yeah, at 2 years in, won a national title. Our school, this tiny little college in Long Island, had a little bit of money because I guess they were trying to make up for a lot of other sports, and they were trying to balance it out. So it was a private school, and they were able to. It was the only school that I'd ever heard of who was given money out specifically for rowing. So they recruited me. They recruited a bunch of other people from different countries, national team rowers from Yugoslavia at the time, from Greece, from El Salvador. So we had like an all-star cast of badass rowers. And so we won, the second year we were fully crewed up and won a national title then, also in the lightweight 4. And after that, I was like, okay, I think I'm good. Being a student athlete is extremely demanding.
Yes.
It's full-time job, and then on top of that, I was working, and then on top of that, going to school. So I didn't have the normal college experience that a lot of people who go to like maybe a state school, have. So it's good. I needed to kind of grow up, and I needed to chill out and really focus on something. So it's exactly what I needed.
So at that point, what was your major?
Undeclared.
Undeclared, yeah. So it wasn't anything that kind of what you were working towards for the rest of your life?
No, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Yeah. I was just going to college because that's what everybody does. Yeah. I'm like, I guess I might as well take advantage of this opportunity, and whatever will come later. I had some interest, but nothing that I wanted to for sure pursue.
Right. Well, and when you got you in the door, so it wasn't like you must study this in order to stay here. So
exactly. Yeah.
Plus,
and
you
17 years old.
Learned kind of what you're made of, huh? To try to get your education. So study, row, work out, work. Yeah.
Work. Yeah.
Make it to classes.
I got a job at a call center. I was selling chimney sweeping service on the phone, so cold calling people like.
Yep.
So I wasn't very good at that either, but it paid some of the bills.
That was, I think, one of my first real jobs.
Telemarketer. Yeah.
We were selling household products.
Okay.
Like mops and all that kind of stuff. Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
Glamorous.
Yeah.
So you drop out.
You drop out.
You get your championship or your title, and then you're like, okay, peace.
I think I was kind of I was ready to get out of there, and I wasn't really getting much out of school, and I just wanted to go back to Florida and figure something out. I just wanted to work and not row anymore, and that's what I did. I went back to Florida. I moved around a little bit, moved back in with my parents for a few months, And then my mom at the time was funding her own film. She had just graduated from UCF, University of Central Florida, in filmmaking.
Okay.
And she was like, she wanted to shoot her own film, and it turned out to be good timing. I helped her out with it. Not the, I was, behind the scenes kind of production stuff. I did some on-set photography and some catering. So I took care of the food and all that, it was a really cool project. Everybody who worked on that project was really passionate about it. Central Florida, not a whole lot of production going on at the time in that area.
I'm like, it's a strange place for production, but I mean, your mom was an actress prior, correct? So
exactly. So
she had her ends to kind of be like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
I'm nosy though. What did they say when you're like, yo, I'm dropping out of school? Were they like, and you're nuts?
Yeah, kind of. My teammates were like, okay, are you? Yeah, they were just kind of surprised. And
what did your parents say? How do you announce that to your parents? My mom would have shot me right back to school.
I don't think they really cared. They were doing their own thing. They're like, we get it. That's a lot of work. And why go through this if you don't know what you want to do? Why go through all these if there's no outcome?
It sounds like both your parents are
time to figure.
The creative types, so they're more understanding of that kind of thing.
They were, absolutely. Yeah. So my mom wrote, directed, and produced this film, and
So what was the next big, encounter in your life that with either work or education or whatever?
Well, I reconnected with I moved around a bunch. I tried modeling. I moved to Miami, New York. That was not for me.
Modeling or Miami or New York?
All of the above. Miami was really fun. Don't get me wrong. New York was not for me, and modeling was definitely not for me.
Yeah.
The world wasn't. So, I ended up wanting to go back to school, and I reconnected with some of my high school friends. They were living in Winter Park at the time, which is where Rollins College is, just in the Orlando area. And that seemed to kind of, I found a little bit of a rhythm there. I decided that I found a major that I wanted to do, which was environmental and growth management studies. I wanted to do. I was like, oh, maybe I can be an urban planner or a parks designer or something like that. I was really motivated in that field, and I did well in school, and I was just working in restaurants, having a good time, and living with two of my buddies from high school. It's kind of like ideal. We were just a lot of good times. We lived really close to the lake. So, yeah, it was just it was a good time.
Living the dream, but with a splash of adulthood, because you finally were like, okay, I'm going to try this.
Exactly. Yeah, there was some direction.
There you go. How old were you at that point?
Oh man, I was
20,
it was 2002, so I was 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had a good time. There was just no constraints, and finishing school on my own schedule, finding something that I liked. And then I reconnected with a girl that I'd met a while back, and I was kind of, we were kind of serious, and she was moving out. She was finishing school at NYU, also in film, and she was like, I'm moving out to Los Angeles. Do you want to come with me? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So Los Angeles was our next destination, and we didn't even really move in together. We kind of broke up immediately. It just didn't work out.
Oops. Bye.
But she got me into production. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She was working in production and got me on set as a PA, and that really was the start of my career in the film business. And I just didn't look back at that point. I finally had something that I could focus on and work towards. And I love working. I'm not afraid to work hard, and you got to work hard, long hours on set. It's no joke.
Yeah. There's a lot of production here in Atlanta, and a lot of friends that work in production, and it is grueling when you're doing it. It is. People don't realize because we watch the show and we're like, it's 40 minutes. That was a really cute show. You're like, yeah, and that took like 6 weeks and 600 people and 15-hour days. And
that's right. Yeah. You don't really see what goes on behind the scenes. You have no idea.
Yeah.
The amount of time and money spent. And but there was always the promise of bigger position available. This was at the time where the film was still booming. Things were going well early. mid 2000s. Budgets were huge. This was right before the crash, and there was a lot of work at the time, and then things slowly started trickling. And I always felt like I was chasing the success, and I got to a good point. I joined the art department, which was even more my thing. I had, a little bit of a background in construction and tinkering with things, and that art department is that it's props and building sets.
Yeah.
Setting up anything that's physical behind the camera or in front of the camera.
So did digital take that space over?
Yeah, digital eventually took over. I think right at that time, people were talking about the red camera, and that became huge, and that became ubiquitous, and people stopped shooting film. When I first started working, there were still camera loaders, and they would run these magazines back and forth the camera all day.
Verify this for me. I watched a documentary on that, the red camera, and I didn't realize that like a film camera only holds about 15 minutes of film. Is that right?
I guess so. Yeah, it sounds about right. I wasn't in the camera department. Those guys were running it back and forth all the time. So yeah.
Because I'm thinking if you're shooting a movie that's 2.5 hours long, and I'm sure you have hours and hours of footage to get down to a 2-hour movie, and it just seemed like if you're stopping down to whoa, you'd kind of interrupt the flow or something.
Well, but now that makes you understand why they film a scene and they cut. And they film and they cut. You're literally, but I think that's so many
I thought they're cutting for the end of the scene, not necessarily because they had to reload the camera, right? Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
Yeah, both also. Yeah, they're always calling, reload.
Yeah, that's so.
It definitely dictates the rhythm for sure.
So you did that until the internet said,
in the streaming, I'm sure that impacted it. Yeah,
we can do this a different way.
The film that didn't really affect me. I think what affected the business in general in a big way was the crash, and production was very slow to start back up.
2008, right? 2008. Yeah,
and things started leaving town. Other places started attracting business. And Georgia became a huge place to shoot. Canada, a lot of the places started. So and wages were stagnant. People weren't making, and I was not in the union. I actually joined the art department union just before the crash.
Yeah.
And after the crash, I lost my hours and I wasn't able to get back into that, and I never joined the union again. Those wages slowly, they were kind of keeping up with the times, but non-union, you still, I think, get the same wages you did back now as you did back in 2008.
Yeah.
The things haven't changed a whole lot, and it's just, but
it's not as fancy really, and feasible as it sounds when they talk about actors and actress salaries. They do. Yeah. I'm talking about what you're getting.
Above the line, below the line. Yeah. Sure. I mean, at the time, it was good money for me. I was just kind of starting out as a PA. I think I was making $200 a day, and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was good at the time. Yeah. I mean, and then you start realizing, was it really that good if I worked 14, 16 hours for $200? It's like maybe I could do that.
Yeah. But, I mean, when you do the math of it, I mean, there are a lot of jobs, right? When we don't do the math, just do your job, because
that's right.
It'll be uncomfortable, but
and hopefully you're getting something else out of it, experience and knowledge, and
and that's what it was. Yeah. I was hungry for knowledge and you really learn about filmmaking as a whole. You learn from every department, see what they do, and I learned a lot from the art department and the art directing, and then photo composition and how to make shots, lighting, and it's just you kind of take it all in, and it's an electric feel to be on set, to be among all these creatives. It's a cool feeling, and then you look at the finished product, and you're like, oh wow, I worked on that. That was
I built that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I slowly moved up to art department, and then I started getting my own gigs. And I was working side by side in photo world as well, and photo advertising and editorial stuff. So I started kind of getting small accounts. The producer would call me and be, hey, I'm doing a photo shoot for this magazine. Do you want to come do some props and some sets on that? Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
And then so I built my own business, and and then started hiring my own people, and started doing more. I was, really kind of ramping things up, doing more bigger and bigger jobs, and working with like named, DPs and directors on certain commercials. And then, what stopped it all was the accident.
Mm-hmm.
I was on vacation in Spain, and we had planned this thing during COVID. My wife and I were eating a bunch of delicious French cheese and drinking wine and just kind of living it up during COVID. And, it'd be really nice in a couple of years when things open back up again, would be to take, an extended vacation in the south of France and Spain. And we just hatched a plan, and we invited a bunch of people and family and along different points along the way. And that's how that plan came about. So in summer 2022, we flew to Nice, spent some time with family in a beach house and just outside of Nice on the beach. And it was phenomenal. And then we just kind of went to a little place in Provence and had some friends come over and hang out, drink a bunch of wine and explore the area. And then drove down to Costa Brava, just north of Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that takes us to
your new way.
That's right. Yeah.
So tell us as much as you're comfortable about what happened. I mean, obviously you've had this great
Sure.
vacation. How long were you gone? How long had you been gone and then this happens?
We had been gone probably 5 weeks at that point.
Okay.
And we had just arrived at our next location, this little house close to the beach in Plecha d'Aro, which is in Costa Brava. And we spent the day at the beach. And the next day, we spent a whole day at the beach. And, it's a beautiful setting, rocks and a bunch of people. It's pretty crowded. And then there's like a bunch of kids jumping off off the rocks in the water. And we found this little channel, and it was perfect to dive into. And I was diving in that place all day. And then at the end of the day, it was 8 p.m. It's still really light out, midsummer. And I decided to try another spot to jump off of. And I did a huge swan dive. And I really planned it out. I calculated all my steps and everything. And I even snorkeled the area before to kind of scout, make sure it was deep enough.
Yeah.
And apparently, I was mistaken. So
There
did
was
a huge
small
swan dive.
misstep.
Yeah. I may have over jumped. I may have jumped actually too far because I was afraid to, hit the rocks below. So, but yeah, I heard the crunch and I surfaced, and I had just enough arm function left that I could just tread water like this, and the water line was right under my bottom lip. And the corner of my eye, I could see this kid on the rock above me, just looking down, but not doing or saying anything. And I was like, help.
Yeah.
I don't think he
Ask,
knew.
were you by yourself or?
My wife was on the beach, and then our friends and their 3 kids were on the beach, and they were all kind of watching this, but they didn't
saw
see
you jump. Oh, they did not.
They saw me jump and they saw me run, but they didn't see me jump in the water. But they knew that I had jumped.
Yeah.
And I guess the oldest son was like, he should have come around the rocks by now. He should have come up. And so they came, my buddy Martin came around and walked up to where he could see and noticed I was in trouble. So he jumped in and then fished me out. And at that point, I was like bleeding heavily. And he asked me if I had hit the rock, and I was like, yeah, I hit the rock.
Oh, so you hit the rocks. That was what I was going to ask. Did you hit the bottom or you hit the rocks?
I hit a rock. I hit a submerged rock, like deep one. But I don't think I hit it going down. I think I went down and then hit it.
Then on the turn to come back up?
Yeah, on the turn to come back up. I believe that's where I hit it. Because I had my hands in front of me the whole time. And if I only take a push with my hands, a pull, because you have your hands in front of you when you jump, and then they're in front of me the whole time until I'm ready to come back up, and then I use that momentum to push myself back up. I must have been going back up at that point.
Now, are you assessing all of this from your injuries and like what you know about diving, or do you remember it?
Oh no, I don't remember that. I don't remember.
Okay,
I remember the crunch. I remember knowing what that felt like.
You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That is not the noise I was anticipating.
Yeah.
Never heard that before.
Nor the feeling of freedom that I thought I would feel.
Nope. No.
So your friend comes around. The kid that was above you, did he hear you say help and think like, well, shit, I should help? Or
I don't think so. I barely remember at that point. The only thing I remember is the crunch, treading water, and then I remember having a brief conversation with my friend. I don't remember the details beyond that. Apparently somebody an adult had seen me and was screaming, ambulancia, ambulancia.
yeah.
And I think they told me they were trying to get me back up on the rocks from that point, and then that wasn't working, so they swam me to the beach from around the rocks. And then I only remember laying on the beach, looking up at the sky, feeling like I was floating, not feeling my legs, understanding the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
And apologizing to my wife. I'm so stupid. I'm so sorry. Then I knew what had happened, and I knew how bad. I didn't know how bad it would get. I didn't really fully understand.
You knew it was a bad situation.
Yeah.
You didn't know how the final permanence would be the way that you're in a foreign country. Does anybody speak Spanish at that point?
My wife is fluent. Yeah, she's
okay, good.
fluent in
So
Spanish.
she could communicate.
Yes.
That's a big problem.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
is this isolated, the area, or how long does it take for emergency services to get there?
20 minutes for the ambulance. It took about 20 minutes for the ambulance to get there. There were police that were there fairly quickly. They were close. The crowd had gathered around, and then it took about 20 minutes for the ambulance to come. And they took me to a hospital nearby. The hospital turned me away. They said it was, they couldn't handle me there.
Yeah.
So they took me to Barcelona, to a place called Valdebron, where they had, surgery. And a day later, I think it took a day. So they had to do a bunch of tests. They sedated me because I was in shock, and I was like apparently freaking out. And I
think I would be freaking out too.
Yeah,
I put me to sleep. I don't know because you can't do anything, but your body wants to do everything, include live and breathe and do all the things.
Yeah, and it's going into shock because I wasn't able to breathe so well. I probably had some water a little bit of water in my lungs, and my body was reacting. So in order to get me into the MRI and all that, they had to sedate me. So I think they put me under, and then hours later I was in the surgery, and I woke up 2 days later, 2 days after the accident, in a hospital bed in the ICU, and I was able to move my arms. I was really excited about that.
Yeah.
And I think I had a good sense of humor at that point. I was still in shock, but it got real very quickly. My wife was there when I woke up. I think my brother had flown in from Boston overnight. I was happy to see them. And then everything started when visiting hours in the ICU are very short. Like I think they had an hour, So when they left, I started getting really scared. There's not a whole lot going on in the ICU. It's just you and your brain and the reality of things setting in. And
was your wife was she able to stay with you though?
No,
not even your wife.
No, nobody. I was alone every night.
You're like, this is the worst. Never knew it was that. Night was 12 hours long and felt like 57 bazillion seconds.
Yeah. Oh, hey, sorry. My earphones just died, or my headphones just died, and my cat just arrived.
Oh, nice.
Good.
It happens.
Yes.
Hey, kitty.
So you're in a foreign country. You're in an ICU. So you have
alone
to
with your thoughts. Yeah.
Alone with your thoughts, but so you have to get well enough to even be transferred to anywhere to get you anywhere.
Yes. Yeah, that was a whole thing. That was that was intense. So luckily, my main nurse was in the daytime. They have 3 shifts over there. They work 8-hour shifts. So there's 3 different shifts that come in. My day nurse was amazing. She spoke perfect English, and she was there, when I initially woke up, and I felt really comfortable. I was like, okay, I can communicate with somebody. She was super attentive, extremely sweet, and when she finished her shift, um, I broke down. Like I felt like I was just being abandoned. And then the night shift came in. Night shift people are very different.
Yes.
They're pretty rough. They did not care, They were playing music out, in the main room. Most of the other patients, all the other patients, were unconscious. I was the only conscious patient, so they're loud and they're kind of, but and they're not very attentive and they're very rough, And
Yeah.
there's a lot at that point. I have a number of different tubes going inside of me in different ends. I have a breathing tube, feeding tube, and a tube, at the other end. And they're, I feel like a piece of meat being turned to clean and all that. It's just kind of awful. I'm not sleeping. I'm
Yeah.
hallucinating heavily from the drugs and the shock. And yeah, it was surreal for 2, 3 days. And the first 2, 3 days were honestly the worst time of my life. It was pretty horrible. Um, but yeah, it took about if they finally I think after about 4 days they removed a day it took to remove the breathing tube. I was able to kind of breathe on my own. Luckily, I had a fracture at the C2, so they were super worried that things were going to be worse. But it turned out to be a hairline fracture and not much swelling at that level. So I was breathing on my own. I had a little bit of a lung infection, and 4 days afterwards, I was able to have my feeding tube removed, which is, I don't know if you've ever had a feeding tube. Not fun. Not fun at all. Every time you swallow, it's just super painful.
Yeah.
So
Way.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
it became a more real life when you got that out because you're like, now my
yeah,
throat is my own. If the rest of me is not my own, my throat is now my own.
yeah. It's amazing, and that was such a huge relief. And it's the rest of the recovery we just small steps like that. It's like, okay, what's the next thing I
I've
can
got
look forward
this.
to? Yeah. So
So what was the rehab system like in Spain?
the system was excellent. It was really good. In that hospital, once I got out of the ICU,
Yeah.
I went to the another wing of that hospital with a bunch of other people who had spinal cord injuries. After a couple of days, I was stable enough that they could take me to their little rehab place for about an hour a day. And at that point, I was even just too weak to push myself in a wheelchair, so they would push me down there. I couldn't stand at all. Like they have standing frames, to try to kind of get your body moving. It's good for your bones. It's good for circulation and all that stuff. So I couldn't do it for maybe more than 30 seconds. Low blood pressure was so bad.
So your blood pressure was like, see ya, I'm gonna pass
Yeah,
out.
it was awful. And I was having, bowel accidents constantly, from antibiotics and just the food and just the shock still. And that lasted for a long time. So they finally, after about a month of doing this and slowly getting better, I got transferred to a state-of-the-art rehab facility for people with spinal cord injuries and strokes and that kind of thing, but mostly spinal cord injuries. And they had for Spaniards, for European citizens, it's free if you have been paying into the system,
Yeah.
So I hadn't, and I was considered a foreign, a patient, and they have a specific wing for foreigners, and we pay out of pocket. But it's still a fraction of what it would cost here in the States.
Yeah, I was like, that's the scary part. Like, if you're in the US, you just, like, yeah, let's not even go there. But that was my curiosity about what happens you're in this foreign country. I mean, you guys are on vacation. Your wife now has to like live there for a while. You're living there in a facility. Like, how does this all occur?
Yeah.
How'd that work?
So the facility is amazing. It's I had my own room. It was a small extra price to pay for my own room. My wife is now living in a temporary apartment, not far away, and people are coming in, they want to help visit and just provide support. So she's constantly hosting family, friends,
Yeah.
and then coming in every window visiting hours. So I think there was like 3 hours, maybe I can't remember exactly, but it wasn't very long, maybe 3-4 hours a day where people could come in and visit. So she's managing all that. She's managing our life back home. We are having to rent our house. We're, realizing at this point our house in Los Angeles is not going to be habitable when we come back, because it's
For you,
steps
right?
to
Yeah.
to the front door. It's built into the hill, so we're not going to be able to live there when we get back. So she's finding, people to move into our house and pay the mortgage, and until we get back, moving our stuff out of there. So she's organizing our lives, and dealing with all those changes, and dealing with her work. And she's an educator. She works at Santa Ana College. She was able to kind of get a little bit of leeway to take some time off to take care of all that stuff, luckily, and work from home, if you will. So, and I'm living in this hospital room, and they took care of everything. So the nursing was the best I had the entire time that I've been injured. Super attentive.
What kinds of things were available to you, Arthur? Were there support groups and OT and PT and all of
OT
that?
and PT, and they call them the physios. We had our own rehab room with our own, scheduled. We had, I think it was 6 hours a day of PT, OT, and then it's a huge campus, and there's a beautiful outdoor area you can push around and hang out. There's like a reading room, a game room, and I got to know a little bit. I got to know some of the other patients a little bit. I'm still friends with some of them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you really connect with when you're in the same situation. It's
I was going to say, you have a shared experience
connection.
going on vacation, not expecting to have like a traumatic life experience.
Yeah.
Have a traumatic life experience.
Mhm.
I mean, it sounds weird to say, but like but for the grace that you had an accident in Europe where they will take care of you and not drain your bank account in the first 6 weeks of your, injury, to where you're like, okay, like who's going to work because we can't afford this? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
if there was a silver lining, it would be to be in a place where they'll care for you without saying, well, what first, give me the passcode to your bank.
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit of that. The insurance paid for the emergency stuff. So everything that happened in the first part of the hospital, the insurance covered, and it was a fraction of what it would have been in the U.S. I mean, it probably would have been $250,000 here in the U.S. is what the insurance would have paid out, and I think they ended up paying like $53,000 for everything.
That shows
For a
you
month in the hospital.
it
So
can be
emergency
done.
surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's incredible.
And they do cash prices here. If you go into a doctor or a hospital, they're going to negotiate with you.
Yeah.
Got to stand up for USA, for crying out loud.
Right.
Come on.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
They're not going to.
Canada's
They're not
the
going to let
same,
you, just flounder on your own. We're going to
Yeah,
take care
no,
of
for
you.
sure.
Yeah.
But Canada is very similar because, like, moving up there, when you have to go through like the permanent resident process, which I did,
Yeah.
I had a medical problem, and they said, okay, but you got to pay like $150 to see the doctor in the emergency room. I was like, $150? Okay. Like, I was terrified to even go because I was like, what if this just breaks my savings and I can't? I can't.
Well,
Yeah,
not to
absolutely.
get too deep into it, but if I counted the number of people from Canada and England who came here for the healthcare because they couldn't get healthcare there because
Yeah, I mean,
you're
there's
on
pluses
you're
and
on a
minuses
waiting
to
list and you
everything.
don't hear about those things. Yeah, it's free, but if you have something that's cancerous and you can't get into a doctor for 3 months, you might be dead.
Yeah, there's pluses and
So
minuses
it ain't
to
all
everything.
kittens and puppies.
Yes.
Anyway,
Anyways.
It depends on the situation. I think with a major situation like this, it's socialized healthcare works really well. For maybe different types of care, I've heard it's also very difficult to get in to see doctors regularly if it's not.
besides like just your regular doctor, if you need to see a specialist, then it gets very difficult. Yeah. And in this country, we talked about it, healthcare for a long time before we have what we have now. And, and I learned along the way that, those $8 aspirins are to pay for people who they care for who don't have insurance, because there's plenty of it's called cost shifting, so they charge $8 for an aspirin that goes to the insurance company, they pay it. And then that extra 750, or whatever it is, goes to pay for the people. Anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
The goal was to get you to a stable place to be able to travel.
Yeah,
I would assume.
Yeah, to get you home. So do you learn everyday things as well too? Just how to transfer, how to pivot, how to get some clothes on and off and that kind of thing.
It's still so early at this point. Even when I was discharged, after 3 months, so a total of 4.5 months since the accident, I still couldn't put my clothes on my own. I could barely feed myself. It was pretty significant accident. Some other people who I've talked to who've had similar accidents that recovered a lot quicker. But it all depends. Every injury,
everybody's different. Yeah.
And,
so you would be considered a quad, right? You're a quadriplegic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the severity was pretty acute.
Yeah.
So it took a while to get back. It took a while to get anything back. So at the end of 3 months, I could manage to push a wheelchair, down the hallway for about 10 minutes on a flat surface. And that was pretty much it. I wasn't transferring on my own at all. I was still using a board and some help. And I could barely hold my head up still. And struggling every day with low blood pressure. So it took quite a long time. So for people who have as acute of an injury as me, who have not had 3 months of rehab, which is common here in a lot of places, I don't know how I would have fared. If I had to been discharged 6 weeks after my accident, that would have been really, really tough. And I hear that constantly. I hear people here, I work with Triumph and I volunteer with them, and we hear that story all the time. Yeah, they just let me go home after 6 weeks. I don't, and then good luck. It's kind of crazy.
And it's not a story from the past, right? It's a fairly recent experience. Yeah. It's some of the guys some of the people who've been injured a long time. They're like, back in the day, we used to get 3 months, 4 months. Yeah, we've heard a lot of those stories. I know there was a young lady that was on. This was the extent of what she got. Somebody who she has no idea who it was, who would like to thank him, but he came into her hospital room and spent about 20 minutes, and that was the cornerstone of everything going forward. That she kind of learned in that 20 minutes. The rest she had to kind of piece together herself.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's hard to imagine for somebody who hasn't had to go through this or hasn't talked to somebody, the amount of changes, the amount of things that you have to get used to and learn about, just to kind of get through the day. I didn't know anything. Nobody knew anything. I'd never really talked to anybody who was a wheelchair user. I didn't know anything about wheelchairs,
and why would you, right?
State of affairs, right?
Yeah, unless they're a part of your life. Yeah.
And all the care, and volunteering with Triumph, that's what we try to make that transition a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And it's tough. We don't get a lot of time. We get an hour a week with some of these newly injured people, and they're only in there for a few weeks. So you really have a total of maybe 5-6 hours to kind of try to get them to think about what they might have to go through to get used to. And we use this opportunity to provide them with all this information all at once. It's a lot. I remember being in the hospital. I'm like, I'm not ready to take any of this information. And I'm taking it one day at a time. I just want to focus on my rehab. I need to learn how I'm gonna, pee or whatever. Or
exactly right. That's what I was gonna say. All the autonomic things that happen, and then those muscles and those synthesis columns that bring the message do not work. And you just suddenly are like, wait, what? All that stuff that just happened is no longer going to just happen?
Actually, you have to think about it. Yeah.
Or plan for it, or make sure you don't get septic because you have to go to the bathroom. You still create waste, whether or not it knows to come out. I mean, that's a challenge, right?
Yeah. You're thrown into a different world. Just got to try to figure it all out.
So they're getting ready to bring you home, and then you've now got people to rent your house, but now you've got to get a house or somewhere to go. Like, who's doing all that? Your wife is with you, right, at that point?
She's doing all that. So my friends and family have moved us out at this point. They've come in and gotten together and moved a lot of our stuff, put it in the garage, rented the house out short term. And we found short-term tenants who are going to rent it for, month to month. And then we're getting ready to fly back. And my brother had figured out, we were trying to get the insurance company to fly me home, and at this point I can't just board a plane and then, sit on a plane. So we have to have some kind of medical transport. And the insurance is like, no, we're not paying for that. It's all on you. And my brother had found out that American Express, the company that I used to pay for the trip, does cover medical transport in case of emergency. So that's what we did. And we called them. They're like, "Yep, here's an agency, a service. There's, air nurses or whatever they call them. And these two nurses flew to Spain, consulted with us, and they were like, cool, we're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to put you on a plane." And then that's what we did. We connected, and then they had like a gurney on top of 3 or 4 seats that had been just, folded down on a commercial flight. I had my own little curtain and everything. It was the most comfortable flight I'd ever been on.
Right.
It was perfect. But yeah, flew me directly to LAX, or connected to LAX, and then went directly to Casa Colina for an additional 6 weeks of care after that.
Good.
Because yeah, still at that point, I could barely do anything.
So in the time we have left, kind of an update on, let's fast forward a bit to, kind of where life is now, and what helped you make that transition to. I know there was so much on your mind, and a lot of it's just time has to go by, and you have to kind of, accept it all and go through those stages. Yeah. And then physical issues are making an improvement all along that way. So, I mean, is that still happening?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think it really stops. There's always a little bit of improvement. There's always, I set goals for myself. I try to become a little bit more independent, a little bit at a time. I recently found out about a tidy board. It's like a little cutting board with a little metal piece that folds out, and it's got these little containers that you can slip into it. So when you're cutting, you can just kind of, scoot all that stuff into these little containers, which was kind of genius for me because I tried to do. I want to help my wife out when she's cooking, but okay, so I got all this stuff that I cut on the cutting board. I can't pick it up and put it into a bowl. Yeah. So I'm okay. I'm done with this. I'm done with the carrots, babe. Pick these up. Now I can just scoot everything in there and these fold. She can pick those up, and I feel like I'm helping. So little things like that. Yeah.
And that's great for your mental state of mind, isn't it? Just that you feel like an accomplishment and you're more independent. Yeah. You're helping. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I'm semi-independent in the shower. I can kind of do most of it except for my legs and my back. And I can fold laundry. The more I do it, the quicker it gets. It still takes me 4 to 5 times as long as it used to, but I can, like you said, I'm participating in all that. I can drive now. That took a while to get the car to a point, or we bought a van, and to get everything adapted was an ordeal. But I'm driving and I'm independent. So yeah, everything is getting better very slowly, a little bit at a time. So, but always dealing with the mental part of it, like always dealing with the emotional side of it. And that's something I noticed with a lot of people who've been injured. There's like this kind of cloud hanging over a lot of us, and especially a lot of the quads. We just look a little bit more tired than everybody else. It's weird. I look at pictures of myself and I'm like, oh, my eyes are always half closed. I don't know what that is.
I didn't feel that way, but I look like
yeah, exactly. And I need a lot more sleep, and it's just physiologically, I'm a completely different human being. Yeah. And just like accepting that and learning how to deal with that, learning what the limitations are, and then being in the middle of my life. People talk about midlife crisis all the time and reinventing yourself, and this happens, and you're not only just kind of trying to change careers, you're also really trying to reinvent yourself with a fraction of the ability that you had before the accident. So there's a lot of emotional repercussions that I tried to kind of mitigate and just cope with. So
what helped you with that? That's one of the
well,
things that we really try to do at the podcast
Yeah.
is make you, even if you just get your, you just get your community from listening to us, at least if we drop a few nuggets when you listen this hour, maybe.
Yeah, that's always been my goal. Is to, I think it's two edged. I think it helps the storyteller tell the tale to maybe move you forward emotionally and your mental health and all that. And obviously, I think it helps other people who are going through the same thing to feel that they're not alone. So yeah, that's our mantra these days: is find your community. Right.
I love that. Yeah.
So what advice do you give?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's different, but
Yeah.
I think that I always try to tell people to give themselves a little bit of grace. I think we tend to really be hard on ourselves, and that's never helpful. I think it's important to really, take a deep breath and just try to be present and know that things will take time. So try to be a little bit more patient, and then also to know that it does get better. Things will get better inevitably. That's one thing that was really hard for me to picture when I first became injured. Is like, what do I have to live for now? How can my life possibly be good again? And as time passes, it does. It's amazing what the human spirit can achieve, what we can do, and how kind of beautiful life is. I get to see the best of humanity. Like, I get to experience people's, really their profound goodwill, which is very moving. Friends and family have, showed up. They've been supportive, and I've found, people like you, and I've found organizations like Triumph who dedicate their existence to helping people who have gone through something for nothing more than just like, the goodwill of it. And it's really, it's humanizing, it's unifying, it's a really beautiful thing. So, it's hard. There's no doubt that this is hard. There's no doubt. I'm not trying to paint this as like, wow, this is all roses and everything. This is really difficult. And it continues to be. It continues to be challenging. It continues to be really frustrating. But like you said, being able to talk about it and having a community is incredibly important.
Yeah. Well, as you tell your story, you're painting a pretty bleak picture at the beginning, and and here you are, now 4 years into it, feeling like you've made a lot of gain and still more to come, and you're going to work on
100%.
it. Yeah. And so with Triumph, they do a lot of things. So many things, but a lot of it is centered around adaptive sports. So, did you find a sport that you liked? And
yeah, absolutely. It took me a minute. The adaptive sports festivals that they have are great. They're also very. It's like it took me a minute to kind of just sink in and be like, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is, you see a lot of people in wheelchairs all of a sudden. It's like, holy crap, this is real. It got real.
Yeah.
But I immediately I just gravitated towards wheelchair rugby. And that's a really popular sport.
Yeah.
So, and then for quads, it's great because it's really the only one that we can compete in. It's just for quads. So it was a sport for me. And as soon as I started driving, I was able to drive myself to practices every week, and that's where I started kind of progressing a lot more, and that's really helped me a lot.
You found your people.
Yeah, I did, and I found something that I can sink my teeth into, and I can train for it. I can look forward to, and it's I look forward to that practice every week. If we don't have practice for whatever reason, it's a disappointment.
Yeah.
And there's opportunities to compete as well as so that's all good. It's all positive stuff, and it's super good for my health. It's incredibly good for health. Like that harsh, that really intense cardio workout has been really positive.
Good. Well, thank you for taking the time to come and chat with us and share your story.
Thank you for having me.
Much.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
And we'll see you at a sporting event here soon, I'm sure.
That sounds great. Yep.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Each week on Walk and Roll Live, we share honest and open stories of people living with a disability.
The surgeon who did my knee surgery, this was again emergency surgery in Fountain Valley, and luck of the draw, I get Dr. Grant Robichaux. And there was a surgeon out of Newport who he and his girlfriend were accused of drugging women and doing things to them. And by August, the news of him being arrested had become public.
Join us weekly for another powerful episode. Walk and Roll Live, wherever you get your podcasts. Life Limitless. Subscribe now.
From the UGYAR Professional Training Studios, you're listening to Walk and Roll Live Disability Stories.
All right, it is story time. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of our guests who come on here and share their stories with us. The worst day of their life, you probably could make a case for that, and definitely a dark time in their lives. And they come here and have an open and honest conversation with us. I can't thank them enough.
So now you've made it through the story and you see why Doug used his little guest hook to find Arthur. And Arthur has quite the story. I am impressed. And I cannot imagine what it is to be injured when you're not in your home country.
Yeah.
Like, my brain was like, bam, like, whoa. I mean, so many stories we hear, and it's here, and you still have to be life flighted somewhere. But like, to have to spend months in some other country's rehab system, then figure out with your credit card company how to get home.
Yeah. And to be away from your support team. I'm sure a few people came to join them, but that's the hardest part sometimes of recovery, is sometimes being isolated in a hospital.
The mental health of it and all the things, right?
People have lives that they've got to leave, as much as they want to spend all day with you. But, so to have them a half a world away.
For sure.
And then, like what he's doing now, too. They got the van and they're just cruising around and,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of in us. All of us, I think, on some levels.
The wanderlust. You haven't lost the wanderlust because the way you function through life changed a bit. And that's nice, because I think that there are people who, like, whatever happens, right? And then they're like, oh, now this is the stopping point of my life, and now this is it, right? And Arthur's not really saying that. He's like, wow, this is different. And, sounds like he has such a tremendous partner who like held it together all through the injury, but has continued to hold it together and be the spirit that she is and was. That's just cool.
I think they grasped it like a opportunity. Mm-hmm. If you get tied down to a job, if he hadn't been injured, he might have been, like me. I mean, I'm not that kind of, it's in there. I would, that's romantically, it would be great to do. I'm way too logical and practical and all those boring things. And, so I would never do it. But he seized upon the opportunity, that he was a little freer, post injury. So good for him. Good for him. Yeah. I'm glad he came on and told his story. Next week, I was going to write that down. Oh, it's Susie Golshan. I met her at one of the sports events, and I know I've said it 1,000 times, but there's just all these stories are so different, even within the same diagnosis. She is she's a quad, but you wouldn't know it if you saw her. She walks, which is very unusual. So we'll get into that whole story and why, and how she's different and can do that, and just her whole spirit. She's a go-getter, huh?
She's a unique, fun person.
So we'll bring our conversation with her to you next week. Thank you for listening. Again, lots of stuff going up on the website. The resources page, and new stuff coming all the time. If you have any suggestions, please let us know, and we'll add it up there. Or any other events that are happening, we'll put that up there as well. All right. So thank you for listening. We appreciate it very much. I'm your host, Doug Benson, along with Addie Rich from the UGYAR Professional Training Studio. This has been Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories, Life Limitless.
Walk and roll life. Life's the best. Walk and roll life. in the land.